Hello everyone, my name is Yulia and today in this video we'll be working with linking in Kojic App Builder. So imagine the situation when your application has different pages and each of them is connected to another one. In this case, if you want to have some specific order or if you want to have some inner logic, you have to use links. In our case, we have a simple application with pages like a simple home page to display and error, and also our empty page, which we will try to link, for example, with our home page. To do this, what we can do, we can simply drag some button to link with home page on a click on it. Let's give it a title, which will be Go Home. And what we need to do, we have to create a before server action for this function to be executed on the client side, and we can call it link with a home page. And now we are redirected to the code block editor. Here what we have is a special folder of a built-in function to work with linking. The most basic and the most important is to open a new page, open a link in 4 different options. It's like to open it in a new browser tab or in the same browser tab or in a new application tab or in a modal window. Let's try in this video to test all 4 of them. So we are starting with a new browser tab, and what we wanted to open was our home page. So let's try to save our newly created function and now publish our application. While it is being published, we can go back to our form and try to test some another functionality. As you can see, we have different options, and let's try trying to create a new type using a new button. So we go back to our function, to our page, and add a new button. We can give it another name, which will be like create in new Kojic tab, for example. And also we again create a before server action for linking with create in new Kojic tab. And now we can work with this action in a code block editor. But as our application has already started, we can test our first function and open it right now. And what we see is our application published. And now we can go to our page we were working with, and here on a form we have our buttons. So what we can do, we can test the first one, which had to open a home page in a new browser account, and it actually did, so it works properly. And now let's move to our second button, to the code block editor. What we have to do here, we have to open a link in a new destination, which has to be a new Kojic tab, new tab of our application. But what we plan to do here is we needed to create an instance of some type. In our application, we have already created a type user, which is a simple field with a name, surname, and email. So we just create an instance of a type, and we need to set this type as a parameter. So we find our user type, and here it is. So we attached it to the function create type. Now we can save and publish this function to see the result. But actually, as you can see out there, there is another option to create a type. It has some advanced parameters. For example, to create an instance with a specific page view or to have some fill function. Let's try to test it in our another button. So we go back to our page and add a new button, which will now create an instance of a type, but in an advanced way with some view, for example. So call it create with a view, and let's try to do it in a same browser type. Browser tab. Save. So we again can create an action for this button called link with create with view in same browser tab. So now we again are redirected to the code block editor, but let's firstly check how our second button works. Going here, we are on our page. Here is our button, and it should create it should open a page to create an instance of a type user in a new CodeJig tab. So as you can see, a new tab has been created out there, and here we have a form to create some user. It can be, for example, some Bob first with some email like codejig.com. So we can save it here. Now let's move back to our third button. Here we again create and open a new page, but in the same browser tab. And what we need to do, we need to create it with some specific view. So here we choose some advanced parameters. We choose to have a page view parameter for our create type function. We use a user type and get it. And using this button while creating a user, we have some default view. But for this button, we will try to use a view which was created manually. In our case, it was with a name user second view. So we select it now. And what we can do, we can save and publish our application, and then we will see what is the difference between the default view and this specific page view for a user. We can close our already opened application, and we now need to wait for some time. So let me show you how does these two views look like. So we go to the data types we have in our application. We go to a user data type, and here we have two views, one created by default and another one called user second view. The first one looks like just 3 fields in a row, and another one has a bit different situated fields. Here they are. So now let's try to open our application and check if the views will be opened properly. So we first go to our working page, then we click on the second button, and here we have the default view. And now this button should open in the same browser tab the another view. And here it is, our same tab and newly situated form. Now we are going back to our page, and we are ready to create our fourth button to use the fourth options of a destination for a new page, for a new link. So we just drag a new button on our field, and what we can do, we can try to index the user type in a model window. So let's specify it in the title and call it index in model window. Again, we create a special before server action with a name link with index type in model window. And let's move to the code block editor. Here what we have, we again select our basic function to open a link. We choose a model window option, and what we will try to do is to index the type. We will working with user, so we select it again and set it as a parameter to our index type function. So now let's try to save and publish our application again. Also, in a links block, we can see that we have a functionality to open a relative URL or absolute URL in a link in some different destinations. So let's try to see if we have some routes, some URLs specific in our application to test them. We now go to our application settings and to the routes field, and here we can see that for the page which displays an error, we have a special URL. Let's try to open it on some new button. So opening our page again, we can try to add a new button which will redirect us to the error page, and therefore we can give it a title like show error. And again, we need to create a before server action with the same name. Let's call it link with error page. Let it be in a new browser tab. And we are now again in the code block editor. What we will do here, we will open the link in a new browser tab, as we mentioned in the name of this function. And what we will do, we will open a relative URL, and to specify it, we need to create a string with this root, with this error URL. So now we save our function, and let's just publish it finally to see how our two last buttons will work on the form. And as soon as our application has been successfully published, we can now open it to see the outcome. So moving to our working page, we can now see two new buttons, two final buttons. This one should open a model window, and here it is. We can now index a user tab, and the final one should open a new browser tab to display some error message. And here it is. We have a new tab and also a page telling about error. So that was all for now. Thank you for your attention, and hopefully you will be using linking properly after watching this video. Thanks, bye.